This is the five Republicans who could challenge Trump in 2024, an article by The Hill, specifically written by Max Greenwood. Former President Trump has hinted repeatedly that he's weighing another bid for the White House in 2024. And while he's made clear that if he does so, the nomination should be his for the taking, he could still face some competition. A number of Republicans have begun maneuvering towards presidential campaigns of their own, some more overtly than others. Of course, there's a political risk that comes with challenging Trump, but that doesn't appear to be deterring some prospective candidates. Here are the five Republicans who could challenge Trump for the party's 2024 presidential nod. Ron DeSantis. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has brushed off suggestions that he will mount a presidential campaign in 2024, saying that his number one priority is winning a second term in the governor's mansion. Yeah, I believe that. But he also hasn't explicitly ruled out the possibility. And unlike several other prospective GOP presidential contenders, he hasn't committed to foregoing a White House bid if Trump launches a comeback campaign. And with his clout among Republicans on the rise, it's possible that if DeSantis ultimately decides to run in 2024, he may not be deterred by the former president. Early polling shows him as the heavy favorite for the Republican presidential nomination if Trump doesn't run again. There are even a few recent surveys that show him topping Trump in a hypothetical primary matchup. DeSantis' growing momentum and influence within the GOP suggests he may ultimately have a path to a nomination, with or without Trump in the race, especially given the fact that he still has plenty of room to grow his name ID among Republicans nationally. I said before, DeSantis would be a good person in the primary. I don't know how he would do in the general election. Depends what Democrat is, because he can say, "Oh, I had Democrats in my administration, and I fought against government takeovers via the vaccine." He'll be able to like appeal to moderates with the bipartisan stuff, and then some of the hardliners with just denying some of the COVID. I don't want to get too much into it because it's been discussed on here before. Mike Pence, despite running afoul of Trump early last year when he rebuffed the former president's efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election, former Vice President Mike Pence has begun more aggressively positioning himself for a potential White House bid in recent months. He's given a series of high profile speeches, traveled to crucial early presidential primary and caucus states, and even made a trip to the Ukraine-Poland border and amid Russia's ongoing invasion. Pence is also among a small group of Republicans considering a White House run, regardless of what Trump decides to do in 2024. While he has isolated parts of Trump's conservative voter base with his insistence that he has no right to overturn the results of the 2020 election, Pence has cast himself as a successor to the former president's policy legacy. He's touted his work with Trump while also fashioning himself as a protector of democratic institutions in the face of efforts to tear them down. All that is to say that Pence might just be willing to take his chances in a potential 2024 matchup against his former boss. The problem Pence has is that because he's so heavily associated with what Trump did as president, I can't, and he's not as interesting as Trump, he's not as well known as Trump. I can't see a Republican voter saying, "Oh, I like what Trump did as president. Let me pick the person who's not Trump to carry on what Trump did." Like, why wouldn't they just vote for Trump again if they, if his was an administration of policies that they love so much? So that's the biggest issue I think he has. Mike Pompeo, oh my God. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo earned a reputation as one of Trump's most loyal advisors and cabinet members during his 4 years in the White House. But he's since taken steps away from the former president, all the while seeking to boost his post-administration political profile. Look, I'm not going to read the rest of this because Pompeo, I already explained before, he's boring. If he talks about foreign policy, people are going to bring up that you're this warmonger. There's nothing for him to latch onto, and I really think his ability to get the nomination is being oversold by these publications. I've never heard anyone who doesn't follow this stuff mention him, and I've never heard anyone that follows this stuff mention him in some excited way. So I'm moving on from him. I'm not reading that whole thing. Larry Hogan, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan has long been one of Trump's most prominent Republican critics. So the idea of him challenging the former president for the 2024 Republican nomination isn't exactly surprising. A Republican governor of a blue state, Hogan has carved a reputation for himself as a more traditional conservative in the mold of someone like former President Reagan. He's warned repeatedly that the 2024 Trump candidacy could cost the GOP the White House once again, and has called on the party to look towards its future rather than linger on Trump's 2020 loss. Hogan is term limited and isn't seeking re-election this year. And while that frees him up to plot his next political steps, it also comes with another risk, remaining in the spotlight after he officially exits public office. Still, he's not exactly playing coy with the possibility of a 2024 run. In a February appearance on CNN, Hogan said that he's certainly going to take a look at a White House bid once he leaves office next January. I think Hogan is someone who could do really good in the general election because he can sell himself as the person who, again, like DeSantis, could appeal to some Democrats and moderates. Oh, I work with Democrats. I'm a Republican in the blue state, because there are people who believe in unity and bipartisanship and just think that's like automatically good, even if we have our beliefs that it's not. The problem he's going to have is if he's in this primary with all these right wingers who are all trying to outright each other. I can't see him making a case for why they should pick someone who's not as conservative as Trump or Pence or any of these other people that have been mentioned on this list or in any of the other ones. So I'm gonna lean toward him being someone that would be good in the general election, because I genuinely believe if he's their nominee, you'll have a lot of people who are Democrats that support him. But as a candidate in the primary, I don't know. I think he's got his work cut out for him. Senator Ted Cruz has never really been shy about his political ambitions. After all, he has already run for president once, finishing second to Trump in the 2016 Republican presidential primary. Despite a bitter nominating process between the two men 6 years ago, Cruz emerged as an ardent supporter of the former president during his time in the White House. Yeah, because he's a bootlicker. Him and Lindsey Graham are the same thing. They go and say Trump is X, Y, and Z when they run for president. Then it all gets reversed when he's in the White House. But the Texas senator has also shown a willingness to break with Trump, especially when it comes to whom he endorses. So this part is complete BS. As far as I know, there has never been a single position that Trump has taken that Cruz was like, yeah, that's wrong. I don't agree. He voted for all his Supreme Court nominees. As far as I can remember, voted for all of his cabinet nominees, supported, every foreign initiative that Trump had while he was not. I don't, tax cut bill. I don't know what they're talking about. He has shown a willingness to break with Trump. When? So that part of the article I think is completely false. In the Ohio Republican Senate primary, for instance, Cruz was vocal in his support for former state treasurer Josh Mandel, while Trump-backed author and venture capitalist J.D. Vance ultimately won the nomination. Isn't it sad that these politicians are so damn identical that now when we talk about like how they're different, we're bringing up endorsements? Like, who cares, Like, no, they have all these similar positions, but where they really stand out is who they say you should vote for. Yeah, just it's goofy. And Cruz has also been more open than most about his willingness to launch another bid for the White House. Asked in a December interview with the conservative news outlet The Truth Gazette whether he would consider another presidential campaign, Cruz responded, absolutely, in a heartbeat. There's a reason historically that the runner-up is almost always the next nominee, Cruz said, referring to his second place primary finish in 2016. And that's been true going back to Nixon or Reagan or McCain or Romney. That has played out repeatedly. You come in with just an enormous base of support. So while it is correct that a lot of Republicans who become the nominee tend to have been in second place prior, I should also mention that the Nixon one is false, because when he won in 68, he didn't run in 64. And when he won in 60, he had never run for president previously. So I don't know why he brings him up. Okay, so it's true for Reagan, because Reagan ran against Ford in the Republican primary in 76 and lost. McCain ran against Bush in 2000, then became nominee in 2008. The other ones are correct. I just think that was a weird thing. But the issue that Cruz has, and it's something he shares with Pompeo, I don't know anyone that finds him interesting or see the other people on this list. I take that back. Most of the people on this list have something that like is their niche. Like for example, was it Hogan, whatever the governor from the blue state. He is a person who can say he's bipartisan because he works for Democrats. He's from a blue state. DeSantis can say the same thing, and his profile's been going up. He can also appeal to these hard right wingers with some of his other positions. But with Cruz, I feel like he's going to be an example where that trend might get broken. I don't think he's charismatic. And if you go and you look at that 2016 Republican primary, and I was there, Cruz didn't, let's say, win 24 states to Trump's 26. He lost in a very humiliating fashion to a game show host that pretty much came out of nowhere, that was only famous for not even being into politics. And before that, the only claim to fame he had was saying that the sitting president wasn't even born in the US with no proof. So I just can't believe that anyone thinks he's going, like, I get where he's got some of the name recognition, um, but do not let these people trick you into thinking that he had this like really close bit. See, Sanders in 2016 did really well against Hillary, and then performed worse during the 2020 race. But I think Cruz, if he runs again, is going to do worse, or he's just not going to bother running at all. And I think he's too arrogant to want to not to like sit this race out. I think he's going to try again and perform even worse. And if I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to admit it. I was incorrect in saying he was going to win the nomination. But my views on him have really evolved, and I just don't think he is charismatic enough. He's a good organizer to defeat some of his opponents, who all are, I've explained their different pros. So I think he's going to get dragged. But this list wasn't that awful. I think it was decent. I really wish they would stop talking to Pompeo. Like, I don't know anyone that likes him. But, to each their own, I suppose.